few things set up. Try to get the mic a little bit closer. Maybe you guys can hear me a little bit better. Set my glasses down. So, first and foremost, welcome in. Let's see if the camera focuses enough. I think that's going to work for tonight. I wanted to do the Itzhak Bentov meditation method, the nightly routine. A lot of people have seen the lunch one or maybe my morning one. I haven't done the nightly one in a while, at least not in front of the camera, so I'm going to go ahead and just wait a couple minutes, wait for some people to come in. This is my 9 o'clock. This is also, I'm actually going to put this on my podcast. That way, people that are interested in the podcast can also see the meditation method in its entirety. At least what I've got, everything to this point. And without any further ado, let's begin. One thing that I always start off by doing is I took my glasses off. I'm going to take my watch and my wristband off. The reason for this is I like to get really comfortable. It's part of step one, which is grounding. Grounding is kind of like being grounded and feeling that grounding, getting that grounding in for yourself, whatever that might be for you. For me, it's getting in a comfortable position, getting some time set aside for myself. You know, I let my wife know that I'm going in for a deep meditation, just letting everybody know that you're busy, that you're going to be doing things, that you're going to be busy for at least 15-20 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long session. A lot of people ask me, I don't have time for this, and I don't have time, half hour, that kind of stuff. And I try to let people know that this actually doesn't take that long. In fact, when I first started, my sessions were only about 5 to 10 minutes long. And the reason for that is I really just focused on grounding and my breath work. And breath work is number 2. And breath work for me, for the Itzhak Bentov meditation method, is a very simple, basic one that a lot of people are familiar with if you've done any type of meditation. It's a 4-second in, slight pause, 5 to 6 seconds out. I have talked about box breathing before, like a 4-4-4-4. This is not really it, and I don't think it's necessary for this one. For this one, it's a lot of it's about getting your heart and brain coherence, and that's going to be step number 3. And what that is once you start breathing correctly and doing that rhythmic breathing, doing some mindfulness meditation, that's kind of like seeing what comes in and just kind of letting it go, and just getting back to yourself for a moment. Just get it grounded. Just relax for a second. When you clear those thoughts out of your head and can practice slowing down your breath and just focusing a little bit, just on the positivity, the energy, the openness, the love. I feel like this is really when the channeling really starts working for me. I feel the magic start taking over for me. Like I said, brain heart coherence, step number 3. And that really it's a little bit about entrainment. It's what happens when you just start getting your breathing down, getting that mindfulness meditation down, learning to relax, learning to let go a little bit, learning to forget and forgive if necessary for the meantime. You can't be bringing in heavy things into your meditation and expect to see heavy gains. The other 2 things I'm going to add to that right now is trying to get good sleep, which is, I know it's hard for a lot of people, but you'll see massive gains if you can get your sleep under control. As well as I find coffee, caffeine, things like that, very kind of detrimental to this Itzhak Bentov meditation. For the reason for that is the entrainment. You're supposed to be slowing down your heart rate. And for a lot of people, when you're juiced up on caffeine, you're positive. I'm bringing in that positive energy. You're juiced up. But that's not what this kind of meditation is for. And also, you need to get good sleep, because when you do the meditation, say you do it in the morning and you start lowering that heart rate, relaxing, if you're so tired, your body is just going to want to sleep and take naps. It's not going to want to try to meditate. That's why it's so important to try to take care of your body a little bit. Get that good sleep, eat that good food, try to get out in nature and walk a little bit. It's because when you do go to do those solid meditations, these are the gains that I'm seeing. These are the words that I took from Itzhak Bentov, and this is what I've applied. I've been doing this now for a long time. I'm going to say probably 2,000 plus hours of meditation. So in just those 3 steps, grounding, breath work, and then you got your heart-brain coherence, just those 3 took a long time, I'd say. I really focused on that for the first few months, trying to get down, what does that mean? How does that make me feel? What do I need to do? But as I saw some small incremental gains, I saw the benefit to it. So I got that down a while. And then step 4 is hemisync. And that's really, if you've not done any research about hemisync, it's just where you're getting that right side of your brain, your left side of your brain to kind of talk, communicate, relax, try to unwind. Try to just say, hey, chill for a second. The problem is, and Tom Campbell would even say this, that you get too many people that are either too right-brained or too left-brained. You get people too logical to try meditation and think that there's much more gains to be had out of it than lower the blood pressure. Or you get people so creative that they have an idea how they might be able to expand upon this. So it's really, there's a lot of different things that the brain thinks about. It's very creative. We're very logical. On some of these things, we have to set some of that aside for now. One of the things that I remind myself is, though, even though I know a lot and I've learned a lot on this journey, I know that I know nothing. And I believe that was Plato. You start there. Understand that, try to take from Bentov. Try these things with a clear mind. Try not to assume things. When we do that, that's when that hemisync is like. The other thing that I use for hemisync that's worked in this step is really just love and positivity and positive energy and just the love for the universe and the love for life and just this opportunity for being there. And immediately it zaps me in that zone because I believe it. And there's a big power in that of compassion and love. I think a lot of people don't understand that. If that is a hard concept for you to grab, you might want to gravitate toward maybe Tom Campbell's imagination thing. Tom's Park is what I think he calls it. That's a good technique. A lot of people seem to have a lot of great results from that. You got Bob Monroe, binaural beats. You got other people's binaural beats. You got these hybrid YouTubers doing binaural beats with pineal gland, and there's all sorts of ways for you to achieve that hemisync on your own, and that's just getting you to relax. The last little part brings us back to Itzhak Bentov. When you get to this achievement level, we're just keeping it very basic. There's very elaboration to it, but once you get to this level, I remind myself in the Itzhak Bentov meditation method, the meditation that's brought me this far so quickly with so much, he does mention in there about a time for reflection for the holographic state. It's a metaphor just saying that we're all interconnected. There's an energy level in all of us. And I've written a couple ebooks about this. I'll put the links down in the description when I'm done here. Go check out the rest of my channel where I've kind of developed this over time. I've definitely done a big deep dive on Bentov. But I've got some other great work on there, and I'm really proud of the channel, how far it's come. I do want to thank everybody for coming here tonight. If I haven't done that, now that I see a lot of people in there, I am completely blind right now because I don't have my glasses, and the light is just so bright in here right now. But I wanted to come in here, I wanted to talk, I wanted to do the full Bentov meditation. I'm going to give you a last little kick or two. Step 6 and 7 here. When you're doing the holographic reflection, what you're supposed to be doing is, it's kind of like a antenna, or you're a beacon. I say this all the time, you're not asking for anything, you're not wishing for something. This isn't prayer time. This isn't a time for certain things. It's very specific. It's a time to be that positive beacon, that understand how Bentov put it is that you are a very unique instrument, your body, the oscillations, the vibrations, the resonance that you make in this universe, the waves that you create beyond what you see and feel. the last little bit that I have is when you do, and I'm hoping that you guys try meditation at least once in your life, when you get a good meditation in, before you just jump up and you go back to your day, sit with yourself for a moment. Come out of it. You don't have to go like this. You don't have to sit Indian style. You can sit in a chair if that works better for you. You really can do the Itzhak Bentov in a chair. I will make that specific YouTube short next. How to exactly do it from a chair. Because I understand people getting on the ground, that can be very difficult. Getting back up can be very difficult. You know, for me, I like being a little bit more grounded. I feel more connected. I'm still able to do this at 47. I may not always be able to sit on the ground, but I've seen yogis well into their 90s, 100s on the ground doing these meditations, this type of meditation, which I do want to say that Bentov draws heavy on yogistic and old traditional styles of the Kundalini when he's talking about, like in the Stalking the Wild Pendulum, which is where I get a lot of this meditation stuff from. If you haven't checked out his second book, The Cosmic Book, that's a good one. If you don't get a chance, go check out my channel. I talk about his works. I talk about his family, his upbringing, things that I'm on to. One of the things that I'm working on is something he was working on right at the end, which was called The Enlightened Body. It was a model for consciousness for the human body, and trying to refine it, kind of like what people would refer to as the gateway process. The gateway was trying to figure out how to fine-tune the human to be able to do these type of things. That's not what Bentov was doing, so don't look into this like there's special powers. But what he did believe in, and to this day, we find a lot of Bentovian things, and I'm going to coin that Bentovian stuff, still echoing in the halls of science today, and it's scary. In fact, a lot of the research that I do in oscillations and vibrations, it gives me some great ideas. So we will be looking into that more, and we'll be developing that more over time on the channel, but we have to give it its due time and process. And I've got to read a shit ton more books, to be straight honest. I can only learn so much at a time, and I did make a little point about this on one of my earlier episodes where I talk about AI and I talk about the research on this channel. And a lot of people, I have used AI, but what I think a lot of people don't realize is AI is not going to help you. It can't access books like Sharona Muir's, that's Bentov's daughter's book. It can't access things that if you want the information. So when you're asking it questions about things, it doesn't have the complete picture. It's wrong a lot of the times. What I do use is I feed equations into simulations, and AI is a bit of that. And sometimes it's nice to play with it, which I'm sure a lot of people have done. Where there could be some development in the future, I love trying to get it to dig out more Bentov information off the internet. I'm a huge Itzhak Bentov fan, and I ask it to keep diving for me to find pages, find things I can share with the audience on this channel. I think using it as a tool and then double checking that evidence and stuff is a great way to use AI. That's what I've got for this channel. It's been great. I've really been enjoying talking about this. This is actually part of the podcast. I do have some big things coming up this summer. We are preparing and planning out the sale of this home with the studio so we can go cross country back west, hopefully, to start a new meditation studio. That's the idea. But we're going to have to see what the summer brings. We're keeping our eyes open, our hearts open. I want to stop at some very famous Bentovian locations. I had thought about going and visiting his daughter Sharona, but to be honest, she's now 70 if she's alive, and she's probably been bothered enough. So I tell people, don't call her, don't bother her about it. She has, she doesn't want to hear from everybody about her father. She wrote a great book, and in fact, I was trying to get my hands on a book she had wrote. The Book of Telling is the name of the book, and it's a memoir to Itzhak, and it talks about him in his early years when he was in the Israeli Defense Force. And it talks about where she actually goes there and talks to some people over there, and she's trying to find out about her father. There was big gaps in her life where he wasn't there. He got divorced. Her parents were divorced at an early age, so she didn't have time. She got to visit with him on visitations, but there was big gaps of time when Sharona Bentov didn't know her father, so she went over there and was. That book has since really come off of publication, and even though I've tried to figure out that was a great book, why would that? I'm not sure exactly what happened if something lapsed. In fact, I tried to release a book on Amazon. It was a companion book to that book, because I have read that book. That book, just so you know, is over $300 for that first edition. I did not pay for that. You can find some of these in rare libraries. You can find some of these earlier Bentov works for loan, which is how I read it. And it was impactful. I think there was a lot of great information in there. It wasn't just about Bentov. And, you know, I obviously, as a history buff and a fan of Bentov's, I was hoping there was more in there than I actually found. That's a full disclosure. There's not much. But what I did found made me smile. It was a big story about a daughter really trying to find out her father, and her father, you know, who to a lot of us was an engineer, a scientist, a man of consciousness, but he was a man who wore a lot of different hats. And he was a great man in many respects, not just the ones we know about. So I'm really happy to be discussing this more. I actually tried to submit that book. Amazon, for the first time, I've uploaded 25 books onto Amazon Kindle. Not one time have they ever had a problem with any of my books. And my books are selling pretty good. It's the one time I wrote that companion book, my insights on her book had not one sentence of her book in there. This was all original material, what I thought of the book. It was a companion book. It literally said that on my title, you know. And I was hoping for people who did not get a chance to read that book, if you wanted to know what that book was about, you'd go in and read my book. But Kindle and Amazon don't like companion books. They don't like Cliff Notes. That's why you're not going to find a lot of that stuff on there. So I'm currently kind of rewriting this to mold to conform to the publishing companies to get it out there for everybody. And when I do, as usual, I'm going to probably put it up there for free at some point when they allow me to. I do have a couple up there for free right now if you guys want to go check it out. William Pyle, you can type it into Amazon Kindle, or type in Itzhak Bentov and my last name, Pyle. That's Pyle, kind of like the studio equipment. But yeah, I've been really enjoying that. Writing is great for me. I am able to get out a lot of information. Same thing with this podcast. When I started doing the YouTube thing, they're like, all right, now you can only upload one YouTube short, maybe 2 a day, they told me. And then one video, maybe a week. If you do any more than that, you're going to get dinged. And I looked into that a little bit more. It's like, yeah, there's going to be some problems and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, you know, I'll figure it out. And since then, I've kind of been doing that. But since then, I've had done so much research, and I had more to say. And then they said, well, hey, if you want to talk more about a subject and you don't want to ruin your algorithm for your YouTube shorts or your YouTube long videos, go into live. Go into vertical live, which I have going on to the right through the cell phone, and then I've got my regular studio, which is off to the left. That's on this camera right here. So if you see me looking here and there, it's also because I'm blind and I've got this thing going. But I did want to have you guys come chill, hang out at the positive meditation session tonight. I basically explained how to do it. You can watch it as much as you want on the other channel. That's what I've got. That's what he wrote about in his lectures and that kind of stuff. I still do it today. I'm still working on it. As I find more material, And that's what I was hoping to rediscover in Sharona's book. Um, I've probably read it a dozen times now, and there's just not much I can more get out of it. I am going to re-release that type of book up there here pretty soon, and I'm gonna have to just twist it a bit so it's not a companion type book because, like I said, Amazon don't like that. It'll probably just be a father-daughter book. I think that was more that I took out of that book. The stronger move of emotion and that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that you guys can get your hands on some of this stuff. If not, check out Stalking the Wild Pendulum. You can read it on Kindle Unlimited. I think that's a great book. Oh, I'm getting. I'm gonna grab my water real quick. I do want to thank you all for being here today. I'm just now kind of relaxing for the evening. I've been working a little bit on these books, trying to get them out there. I submitted it, they kicked it back. I changed it, I submitted it, they kicked it back. Now I talked to them and I told them I totally get now what you're doing and saying, and I'm going to restructure it so I can re-release it. I think it's more of a title thing. I think they didn't actually read my book. That's what kills me. I think it was more in the title that it said a short guide, which was crazy because they took my Stalking the Wild Pendulum book, and that was called Itzhak Bentov, Stalking the Wild Pendulum, a short guide. So I don't know what's going on there, but I'm still happy. I'm still writing them. I'm actually going to diversify. There was 2 books that I wrote. One was about a little bit of the psyche. There was a CIA method book that I wrote. In fact, I think that one's free right now. 7 Hertz is doing really good. I've got this Itzhak Bentov meditation method. It's like a 6-book type of thing, where the first book kind of introduces it. The second one's like a deeper dive. I've got a basic one for people who just want to know. There is a book about who was Itzhak Bentov, if you want to know the history about the man, where he came from, that kind of stuff. I do hope to, when I go travel out west this year, I will probably stop at a few places and give very small lectures about Itzhak Bentov if I can, when I get the opportunity to. There's been some talks about that. A couple options for doing some talks out there, and so I'm excited. I feel like the more people that learn about Itzhak Bentov, learn more about oscillation and vibration just from a scientist perspective, that's great. Whenever you can like shine light on a subject that you think that there might be something there, and you suddenly have the masses looking into that, that's one of the best things you can do as a scientist, because what it does is it opens up the funding for it. It opens up new equipment, instruments, tools. I'm a huge fan of tools. One of the things I like also that comes about it is when you get a bunch of people that start studying things like consciousness research, things come out of it. Over time, things come out of it. For better or worse, for whatever. Just like when you work on math over the years, things come out of it. Just like when we work on all sorts of things. Even though it sounds like a subject that we're done with, there's nothing more that we can learn, it's a difficult subject. Each year, I feel like we get a little bit closer to identifying things, like the data being recording over time. Alright. I was going to work on this studio here and put a lot into it, but at the same time I realized that I'm moving out of this house here soon and will need to just try to fix it up the best I can. Not sure what it's really going to go for, and I don't really care so much. Money's not so much an acquired thing as much as a tool to do the other things that we want to. I've worked pretty much my whole life, in case anybody was interested, in various fields. But maybe I'll do a little podcast. If enough of you like that, I will tell the whole story of my life and where I came from and kind of my upbringing, my education, and maybe all that. It seems like a few people have asked about that before, so we'll go all over that in the next podcast. I'm gonna wrap it up so I can go hop in the bath and just soak and chill with some Epsom salts. I am so sore. I'm still trying to stay in shape a little bit out here. I've been walking a lot more at work, getting my steps in. I've been doing a few things around here to try to clean up and prep. And I do appreciate once again everybody being here and supporting the channel. I thank you all. I'm going to wrap it up. You guys have a beautiful night. And as always, have a blessed journey.